Millions are recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Ian, but even as bodies are still being fished out of the water, the left has seized the opportunity to harm their enemies. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has become a high-priority target for the left after displaying a willingness to push back against woke ideology and media narratives. The grotesque vultures that masquerade as pundits and reporters in this country have lined up to use the Category 4 storm as a political bludgeon to destroy the up-and-coming governor. After using the pandemic to derail a likely Trump re-election in 2020, the cathedral has plenty of practice capitalizing on disasters to rid themselves of troublesome populist politicians. And it has become very clear that they plan to use Hurricane Ian to do the same to DeSantis. New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman was one of many Twitter blue checks who decided the most fruitful line of attack would be to question why it took the affected Florida counties so long to declare mandatory evacuations. The governor made short work of a CNN reporter who tried the same attack live on air. He pointed out that even CNN's own news crews were stationed in Tampa, many hours away from where the storm actually made landfall, because that is what all the best models for Ian's path had predicted. The sudden turn to the south and rapid intensification of the storm was a surprise to everyone, including the experts, but that hardly mattered. The death and destruction visited upon the state of Florida was an opportunity to punish an enemy of the regime, and they did not hesitate for a moment to utilize it. Others, like MSNBC host Joy Reid, made an embarrassing attempt to smear DeSantis as a racist for his remarks suggesting that armed Floridians might defend themselves from predatory looters. Reid apparently seemed to imply that only minorities would consider looting after a hurricane. It would be fascinating to hear more about how she arrived at that particular conclusion. Many on the right have claimed that if the GOP and its voters would just move beyond Donald Trump, the vicious hatred that progressives have for Red America would cool and American politics could return to their normal state. The immediate exploitation of a natural disaster to ferociously attack Ron DeSantis should prove this narrative was always ridiculous. It was always a fantasy. The left will not be returning to status quo politics. They will only accelerate the radical nature of their attacks. Neither Trump nor DeSantis are the real problem for the left. It is the very existence of Red America that is the problem. When Trump tweeted out, "In reality, they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way," that may have been the truest thing he's ever said. Progressives will continue their unhinged escalation no matter who represents conservatives because it is the very existence of conservatives that they actually loathe. It is important to understand that ruling and punishing Red America is the animating force of the left-wing coalition. Red state Americans are the internal enemy necessary to justify the increase and consolidation of power for the regime. If they did not exist, the revolution would be forced to invent them. While progressives do require the continued existence of conservatives to bind their coalition together, they genuinely see the right as a morally repugnant and backward force that must be corrected and controlled at all times. Conservatives were acceptable opposition as long as they nominated safe, easily controlled candidates like Mitt Romney, John McCain, and George Bush, though even these mild personalities were characterized by the media as dangerous threats. Anyone like Trump or DeSantis who might actually prove effective at leading the right, actually seek substantial victories against the establishment, those are out of the question. The problem that the left now faces is that the plebs will no longer elect the controlled opposition candidates. Establishment conservatives are still holding out hope that their base will return to nominating people like Jeb Bush or Nikki Haley, but that prospect seems squarely in the rearview mirror. Trump, for all of his shortcomings, shattered the perception that the GOP voters would never be represented by someone who actually cared about their issues. and those voters are unwilling to return to the status quo. With their ability to contain Red America damaged beyond repair, the only option remaining for the left is escalation. Progressives moved from calling their opponents racist, to white supremacists, to insurrectionists, to fascists. President Biden does not hesitate to compare Republicans to Nazis, and federal law enforcement regularly labels right-wing extremism as the most dangerous threat facing the nation. The current administration uses the FBI as a Praetorian Guard, charged with raiding the political enemies of the regime, including the former president and most likely challenger to Joe Biden in the 2024 presidential race, Donald Trump. This dangerous escalation in rhetoric and politicalization of law enforcement will continue because the left genuinely believes that allowing the country to deviate from unfettered leftist progress for even one election cycle would result in some kind of Handmaid's Tale Christo-fascism mashup from their worst nightmares. Progressives have so heavily distorted the natural order to manufacture power for their coalition that a few years of reality reasserting itself poses a threat to their total grasp on power. That is why it does not matter if it's Trump, DeSantis, or someone entirely different who runs in 2024. If that candidate genuinely represents a threat to the total domination that the left demands, then any and all options will be on the table to destroy them. The left must wield the power of the total state to feel secure in the twisted clown world that they have constructed. And they will exploit any tragedy, shatter any norm, and manipulate any rule it takes to destroy those that represent a threat to that power. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. This piece originally appeared on my Substack. If you'd like to be able to read those as soon as they come out, make sure to go ahead and follow the link below to subscribe over there. The description below is also where you'll find a link to support my work on Subscribestar, like these absolutely amazing people whose names you are seeing on the screen right now. And in the description, you'll also find links to things like my Rumble, my Odyssey channel, my Gab, and all those other sites where you might want to go ahead and find my work and follow me. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.